Hello, FMFP planners. This is Thomas, and I'm recording this to orient you to Basecamp. Basecamp is the platform we will be using to collaborate and plan FMFP. This will just be the nuts and bolts of our site so we can interact with it and with each other and get moving. I'll be sending some other videos along that show some tips and tricks. And there's a lot out there for anyone who wants to take it to the next level. You should feel free for sure if you're into that kind of thing. But this should just leave everyone with some familiarity with our site and with the basics that we need to do to communicate and navigate the site. Alright, so here we are in Basecamp. Basecamp, you can navigate Basecamp through these tabs up top here. And we're actually going to start with the tab on the far right, the Me tab. And the Me tab, this tells you all the activity that you've had on Basecamp. We'll actually come back to this page at the end so we can see what we've done in the interim. And there's one other thing I want to show you later. So here we are. You'll notice this is not my Basecamp account. I'm just using somebody else's so it looks most like yours. Here you can change your password. Here's your username, your first name, your last name, as it appears on the Basecamp your email. One important thing to point out here is that your time zone. You want to make sure your time zone is correct because the time zone will be important. Let's say if there's something in the events, something that you schedule and you put down 8 p.m. If you're on the West Coast and you have your West Coast time and you put 8 p.m., that'll show up as 11 p.m. on the East Coast. So it'll automatically translate whatever your time zone is. The other big thing on this page that I want to point out is uploading a picture. We really want to be able to see your face. Almost all of our communication is done virtually, and it's really nice to be able to see what people look like and get a sense of folks are at least visually. So just choose a file. Here I happen to have one on my desktop here myself. I'm going to choose that. Down here I'm going to save changes. And there we are. And isn't that nice? Much nicer to have a beautiful picture up there. Alright, so let's go up here. We're going to go navigate our tabs one at a time. We'll start with projects. For us, our projects correspond with our committees. So community building communications, documentation and evaluation, fundraising and finance. So all of our committees, most of you have committed to one of these, volunteered to be on one of these. And so you'll be doing most of your work in one of these projects here. There's another project as well which is called General FMFP, and that's where we can do our communication to the whole team. So let's look at this as an example. Again, we have top tab navigation up here. On the projects there are discussions, there are to-do lists, files, and events, and we'll go through these. Discussions are probably the thing that we'll use the most on Basecamp. What's really nice about Basecamp is that to take part in discussion, you don't actually have to log on to Basecamp. It's not like a message board kind of thing. It's you send a discussion, or you start a discussion, and it gets sent right to folks' email. People can reply right out of their email. They don't have to log on to Basecamp to reply. And it keeps track of it as a thread, as a discussion, as in a thread in a discussion. So that's really nice. We'll see here we have 10 discussions. If we look at this discussion, you can see that the whole thread is here. So that's really nice. If you're like me and you have a lot of emails in your inbox and you're trying to find that one thing, what did we say again about such and such? You can actually just go here on Basecamp, and the whole discussion is in one nice, easy to follow thread. No searching for your email if you don't want to. So let's look at posting a message. There's a couple things I want to show you about that. So let's say we're here. We put our subject line, and we'll be starting committee. So we're starting committee work this week. Now, if we want to do this message, here's probably the most important thing. Automatically, when you start a message and send it, this is what your picture looks like. That's what your screen looks like, I should say. You can attach a file. I'll talk about attaching files a little bit later. There are here some little bit of formatting that you can do. But here's the most important thing to talk about on the emails or on the discussions. When you're ready to post your message, don't just hit post this message. Please don't do that, because what that does is it automatically posts it to everybody in the whole planning committee. And if you're just, let's say, in the workshops committee, you don't want to post, you don't want everybody to get the message if it's just meant for the workshops committee. We don't all need to know that you're not going to be able to make the call on Thursday. Something came up. So one of the most important things is click the second button here. Let me choose who should get the email. And here you'll see everybody listed, because everybody has access to all the projects. So if you just send it out, everybody's going to get the email. Here, select everybody. If you want everybody to get it, you can, choose particular people. I really want Cam and Liza to get this. And, maybe say Shireen and Tara. So you do that, right? The other thing you can do is you can select particular teams. So let's say you only want the community building and communications team together. So you can click that, and all those folks are going to then be selected, and you can send your email. On top of that, let's say you're working. It's a fundraising team working with a vendor, and you want to loop them into this particular email, but you don't want to share the whole project or say everything that we've been doing. You can actually loop somebody in by clicking here, and then just type their email address in. And there you go. And then you post this message, and they'll get emailed to everybody. So we're not going to do that. I'm just going to get back to get out of this message. But that's messages. So make sure that you select who you want to send it to, your recipients, and there it is. So that's mostly what I want to say about discussions. To-dos. This is a nice feature. It allows you to make a to-do list. Of course, it's only a useful tool if you use it, so it would be good to get in the habit of using this, and a good place to keep track of our tasks. So here's one to-do list: setting up Basecamp, invite everyone, put people on the projects, put people into companies, add files, send out Basecamp training videos. So to add a to-do here, send out Basecamp orientation. Okay, to add it, I can just hit enter or return or whatever you have, or I can hit add this to do, right? And then I can also come here and I can assign it. I can assign it to myself, or I can assign it to someone else. Say Thomas here, and I can actually put a due date here. So we want this sent out tomorrow, like that. So these are all tasks that have to do with this one to do. So that's how you add new tasks. You can actually add an entire new to-do list like this. And let's say this is, call first committee meeting, right? So there we go, and then we add a to-do list here. Add some tasks, I don't know, start the email, set the doodle, send the email, I don't know, whatever. Whatever you need to do to prepare the documents. And you can set your to-do list here with specific tasks that will accomplish your to-do. You can easily delete one thing. Okay, I don't really tell myself to send an email, so I'm going to delete it here. Or you can delete the entire list, and that'll get rid of everything. All right, so there we go. So that's to-do lists. Now, one nice thing about to-do lists is that if we go back to our project here, I'm going to skip files for a second and skip over to events. The events gives you a calendar. So this is called a project calendar, and it's for this project that we're in. And you can see here that on my to-do list, or on my calendar, you'll see my to-do list. So that's a really nice feature, which will only work, of course, if you assign a due date to it. Here we can add an event. So say a committee call. We put the time in. You can have a note if you'd like. You can type in folks who you want to send emails to, so specific people, or you could even do entire teams. Right, send that to company, and then add this event. You can also, one thing you can do here is the repeats. I don't think it's that useful a tool because unless you're doing something every day or every week, then it's not that useful, because when you do every month, it actually does it by the day of that month. Like it'll be the 29th of that month instead of like the first Monday of that month or whatever it is. So you can use it, but it's not. I don't find it that useful. So cancel that. So there we go. Yeah, that's events. It goes every 6 weeks, so you can see what's coming up. And again, it has all your events and all your to-dos. It's of course only useful if you populate it. You see here we have these past events. All right. So I had skipped over files. Let's go back to files quickly. Here we can upload files that are relevant to this committee. We are using this to plan the retreat, so we uploaded the files from previous retreats to help our planning for this one. To add files, it's pretty simple. You click Add Files. The nice thing about this is that this year, which is different from last year, is that it's actually integrated with Google Docs. So you can click here and add, say we want to add a file from our planning Google Docs. The first time you click on this, it's going to ask you to connect to sign into your Google Docs and ask permission to connect with it. So we look at here. Let's say we want to add in the guidelines for being a good committee member. Select that, and now that file will be uploaded as soon as we add this file. Now if you want to alert somebody that you've uploaded the file, again you can click here and then I'll send an email saying this file is uploaded. You can pick everybody, or again you can just pick, I really want the fundraising team to know that I put this last year's budget up, or whatever it is. Okay, we're going to cancel because we're not going to add this file right now. But that's how you add files. So that's pretty much it. There's this thing called a text document. We don't really use this. It's not that useful. We can't do simultaneous editing like a Google Doc, and formatting is not that great, so we tend not to use that very much. So those are the basics for the project. All right. Let's move to calendar. This will be brief because we already went through calendar a little bit earlier. But here we can see that there are 3 calendars: general, FMFP, and then these are project calendars. So if we look at logistics here, that's research hotels is on the calendar for tomorrow. Excuse my cough. This has all of the different calendars. So if you're just looking at FMFP calendar, again, it's not going to have that local logistics event here. It's just going to have the calendar for your project. The other thing I want to point out here is you can subscribe to iCal. So if you have Apple iCal or Google Calendar, you can actually integrate your Basecamp calendar into your Google Calendar or your iCal. I'm not going to actually go through it here, but it's pretty easy. I think it's in the video that I'm sending along as well. But that's kind of a personal thing. I don't want to have to take everybody through that process. Some people are going to want to do that. Some people are definitely not going to want to do that. So that's it. So that's calendar. Let's go to everything. Everything is pretty self-explanatory. It's everything. So you can browse every discussion. These are all the discussions we've had so far. You can look at all the to-dos here. You can see all the files, all the text documents, which we don't really use. See all the deleted items. So that's everything. Progress is kind of a timeline. It's not kind of timeline. It is a timeline of what's been happening. So you can see a lot of what I've been doing, just adding folks and stuff like that lately. That's mostly what's on the timeline right now. And that's it. So those are the 4 main things. Everyone, that's where you keep track of the folks. Look at all these beautiful people with their great pics up here. These are all the people who are on the Basecamp. You can see all the people by clicking on this here, and they're alphabetized by first name or by email if they haven't logged in and registered yet. So a few people still have to log in and register here. The other thing to point out here are companies. So companies, for us, companies sort of correspond one-to-one with our planning committees. So you'll see community building and communications as a company. It's also a project. It's also one of our committees. And then the whole planning team, and then all the other committees as well. It is a little bit different than our projects. For instance, we're going to have a coordinating committee company, so people can easily email the coordinating committee without having to select each person in the coordinating committee. And it's also nice because, again, like I said, if you're in workshops and you want to send something to, let's say, the fundraising and finance people, you can see here there are 8 people: Alex, Emmy, Ulysses, Keith, Nyla, Cam, Sick, and myself are on the fundraising team. And if I were, say, on workshops and I wanted to post a message, proposals are going out, and we need some money. So again, you can send that to the workshops folks and to the fundraising and finance folks, and that's actually done through those companies that we saw on this thing. It's not a real message, so again, I'm just gonna get rid of this. But that's how we use the companies. So we're just about done with this video. I want to go back to me, which isn't really me. And you can see here, I've been doing, this has been updated since when we first came. So if we see all of our activity, this is all the stuff that's been happening. The other thing I want to point out here, it's important, is your Basecamp settings. It makes more sense now that you've seen the Basecamp or what these things might mean. Here is where this is the email address that all your notifications will be sent. So, maybe you signed up under one email, but you want, all your emails are forwarded to your university email or whatever. You can set that up here. You put that email in here. Project email notifications. So send me email notifications from all of my projects. And remember, everybody has access to all the projects, so you're considered a part of every project. So that means that if somebody in workshops sends something out, then you might get it as well. So one way to deal with that is that you can just select the particular workshops, or excuse me, select the particular committees from which you want to receive emails. There shouldn't necessarily be a problem as long as folks are selecting the correct recipients. But this is another way, like, okay, I only want to get my workshops in the general FMFP emails. That's one way to do that. The other thing to point out here is that you can get an email notification whenever someone completes a to-do that I added to Basecamp. So it's not going to send you an email every time anybody does any to-do, but if you set a to-do and somebody else completes it, it will send you an email. So you can turn that on or off. And then there's a daily recap every morning that says what happened yesterday on Basecamp, all the activity. So if you're someone who likes to have an eye on the big picture, see what's going on with everybody, you want to turn that on. If you're somebody who that would be really annoying for, you can turn that off. And that's it. So that's our Basecamp. Again, I'll be sending out some more videos. Hopefully this was helpful. And I'll be getting at you all very soon.